Hi guys, so in this episode we're going to start the formula evaluation, right? So the first thing that we did was to ascertain that there are no missing sectors, no big holes out there. That is very important because those cannot be remedied. The second part that we did was we went and saw the inside of the house to see if the internal forms are okay. Now, in some of them they were, in some of them they weren't. If you look at the previous videos that I shot, you'll be seeing the analysis for each of the apartments that we saw. And now for the previous ones that we saw that they have some good sides and some bad sides and not some good, some average ones. So now we move on to the final step, which is to assess the formula Feng Shui. That is, we measure things, yeah? So the measurements start with taking what is called the facing of the building, and we use this kind of instrument. This is a luopan, yeah, it's called luopan, but it's basically a big compass, right? And it's a very, very accurate and precise compass, and it's got a lot of formulas. It's like a cheat sheet, and there are a lot of formulas on this one. So when the Feng Shui master wants to apply this or that formula, this is all the writing that you see here is basically kind of a cheat sheet for all the formulas, or for many of the formulas that you would normally encounter in the Feng Shui analysis. But for now, we're just going to use this just as a very accurate compass. You can do this with things like, for example, a mountaineering or hiking compass if it's accurate enough. And you want to avoid taking the facing of the building while standing too close to a car or too close to any metal object that might be distorting the magnetic field, okay? So when it comes to the facing, what is the facing? It's like, if you become the building, which way would you be looking at, yeah? Which way is the most active, the most yang side of the building? Now here, behind me, there's a lake, and there's also an open space, and on the other side of the building, there's just a parking space and some other buildings. So it's quite polarized. It's quite obvious that this side is the facing. So I'm going to take the facing, measure it, right? So basically what I'm doing is I'm aligning with the perpendicular on the side of on this facade, and see how it aligns with my compass. And I am going to take the facing of this one. Right. The problem is that, so for example, if you look at it, okay, there is a problem here, because if you look, yeah, what we see, sorry, let me just take the facing right, okay. I'm just going to align with the building, so when the needle is like that, we're aligned. And here is a big problem that we see. And this is another no-no that we see, yeah, if you look here, this red line, which indicates the facing of the building, if you look here, it's right between northeast 2 and northeast 1, right? So it's really, I'm aligning the compass needle so that north is on north and south is on south, and I'm aligning this red line with the perpendicular on the facade of the building that I'm taking the facing of. And in this case, this one, yeah, is just between two directions, between northeast 1 and northeast 2. This is called a small death and emptiness line. This is just this is what it's called. The reason why it's called death and emptiness is that at that moment it's exactly on the border between two areas of different energy. So basically the energy is kind of shifting. It's in the middle of a shift, right? So that's a very, very, very small part. There's a very small slice of about 1 degree in which the energy is shifting from one structure in one area to another structure in another area. Now this is rare. This is very rare. But in this particular case, the problem is that basically the whole building has a bad Feng Shui. This is one of the big no-nos in Feng Shui. You don't want to align a building to minor or major death and emptiness. Of course, you can get worse than that. Major death and emptiness lines are the biggest no-no of them all. But basically, this is kind of a void energy. So that means that life is just going to be depleted out of that building. The energy is going to be confused. So already, all the analysis that we've done on the inside, on the forms, completely is useless right now. It doesn't matter anymore because we've already hit one of those no-no blocks that you don't want to get past. If you see this, you don't want to go that. Now what you saw me was doing only one measurement. Before that, I've done numerous measurements in different areas on the same building, because this is a very, very accurate thing. Again, this is a 1 degree slice of the compass. So this is very, very accurate, and the magnetic field is going to vary because of cars, because of metal objects, because of various stuff. So whenever I'm taking the facing, I'm going to be taking it in different areas so that I compare, I make a mean thing, an average thing. But unfortunately for this particular building, it's the same everywhere, right? So unfortunately, the building feng shui for the whole building, unfortunately, is not very good. So I'm going to advise my client not to buy an apartment in this particular building. Okay, so make note, guys. Yeah, you wanna this part of measuring the facing of the building, especially if it's very close to those death and emptiness lines, you might want to defer to an experienced feng shui practitioner, because it requires a lot of practice with the low pan so that you know that your measurements are precise. But just to be sure, this is another big no-no that you want to avoid when doing feng shui. Right, guys, so thank you very much for joining me. Stay tuned for more interesting videos on feng shui that will help you learn how you can improve your life and how you can avoid some bad apartments or some bad houses, so that you don't need to fix them, you can avoid them altogether. I'm Octavian. Stay tuned, follow me, and I'll see you in the next video.